Being overprepared is impossible, and other mottos by Please.123. Chapter 13. No one becomes a ninja for the pay. Kakashi watched with half an eye as Kotetsu went through the motions beside Sasuke. Sasuke was watching with careful attention, but Kakashi had his starring gone out since Kotetsu couldn't come back every day to teach Sasuke. They would at least know better basics and could work on their own after he left. The other half of his attention was on Naruto and Sakura lightly sparring on the other side of the clearing using their own weapons. Kakashi had bartered with Miyazaki, owner of the local weapons shop and weapons enthusiast, to copy an hour's worth of lessons using a hammer and a chain and sickle. He had known enough about the chain and sickle that Kakashi would be able to keep Naruto busy for a bit, but even he had only known the bare basics of using a hammer. His cute little student just had to pick the one weapon no one in Ghana used. Oh well, she'd muddle through it till they could find a sensei. He had already noted she is heading for the library after lessons, and after checking up had found she had been looking at the few scrolls on intel they had on said weapon. I have one more gift for you. Kakashi smiled at Sakura as she and Naruto took a break. He held out a scroll and she eagerly unsealed it. Wow! Naruto crowed, leaning over her shoulder to look at the large hammer. The wooden one you were using is okay, but it wouldn't hold up to the strain of real battle. Miyazaki got this one from Iwa. Real steel, so it will be heavy, Kakashi warned. Sure enough, she had trouble lifting it as easily as the wooden one. He trusted she would get it, though. This must have been expensive, she muttered, eyes narrowed. Got a deal, actually. No one wanted it for the same reason we can't find you a teacher. No one in Konoha uses the hammer. Which was true. He had gotten a splendid deal, actually. He ruffled her hair and set her and Naruto back to work, Sakura much slower under the new weight. No one became a ninja for the pay. Every ninja got a small stipend a month, based on rank, as long as they worked either missions or in village. It wasn't done per mission, as that would create a competitive work environment in a place they tried to foster cooperation and teamwork. So instead, you were paid according to your rank as long as you filled a certain number of hours a month. Out-of-village missions could count toward more hours, since you were technically on duty at all times while away. You could also stockpile hours, such as working back-to-back missions for 1 month, to take the next off as long as you were not specifically needed. It made sure Ninja took the initiative to keep busy, but since everyone got a similar pay, no one was fighting for missions or sabotaging others to get hours. Genin were given a bit more leeway in the hours department if the sensei filed for more training hours, which is what Kakashi had done on their training trips, which was usual before exams and the like. The only way to make extra money was to get bonuses on well-done missions, by the Hokage's decision, and by collecting bounties while out on missions. There were cases where ninja accepted small missions while out on larger ones as well. Local villages would sometimes ask for certain help if a ninja wandered into town. As long as it didn't interfere with the village-assigned mission, it was fine. You just had to declare it to pay taxes on the mission, same as the bounties. In return, ninja got subsidies on housing, ninja-specific housing available to those who did not want to find anywhere else or good it. Healthcare was free. Certain bars and restaurants, especially the Akimichi ones, would give discounts as well. Standard weapons could be gotten from the armory, a certain amount per month, only extras needing to be purchased out of pocket. And since D ranks were provided free of charge to any villagers who could prove a need, most civilians tended to tip the ninja since they hadn't had to pay for the service. As for teachers, well, Jonin Sensei got a decent stipend while training. They were treated as working hours, and they were given a tad extra to help with the training, be it for tools, the odd team bonding meal, or such. Kakashi had been holding onto that stipend, saving it carefully, as they didn't have to spend anything in the middle of nowhere. Kakashi was also by no means a large spender. He had his cheap apartment, and he had everything he could need. The only things he regularly purchased was food and weapons replacements. His only vice was porn, so he didn't spend money at the bar or the brothels. The only other thing he ever spent money on were his ninken, but the Inuzuka rarely charged him for checkups or appointments. So Kakashi, who had been working full-time since he was 6 years old, had a decent amount of savings on his own. But he was also the head of the Hatake clan. While they had never been the most prosperous clan, they had still at one point had a decent amount of members. Most Hatake had preferred simple lives, not spending lavishly, so savings had built up there as well. While there were other Hatake in the ninja ranks, distant cousins and relatives, Kakashi was the last of the main branch. To be honest, the Hatake wasn't so much a clan now, as it was a scattered family. Kakashi could claim no relative to be close, nor did he want to be honest. But that didn't mean he wasn't still head of the clan with a vote on the council and a nice nest egg of savings. Along with a house. "This is your house?" Sakura asked, nose wrinkled, as she looked at the dusty doorway. Their front gate had squeaked atrociously when they had opened it, and there were so many dead leaves and weeds on the ground they had to push hard. Kakashi hadn't touched the place since his father had died, to be honest. When he remembered, every few years he got a D rank ordered to clean it up and do a few repairs, but it had been a few years since then. To be honest, Kakashi had thought of selling it many times, but in the end he always paused. For one, it was a hassle to go through the trouble of selling it. For another, well, it had been his family's. He had been born here. His parents had died in here. One in childbirth, one via suicide. It was his family's, and while Kakashi had doubted he would have more family to fill it, some lingering ghosts and memories had compelled him to leave it be. "Yep," Kakashi said with a slightly forced cheerfulness. "Looks like a mess," Naruto declared, looking around the small yard before the front of the house. At one point, it had been a beautiful garden with trimmed trees and flowers. Now it was a wild tangle of dead leaves, weeds, and out-of-control plants. "Haven't been here in... must be going on 20 years now." They stared at him, surprised, tried to understand, but he just smiled at them, book tucked away and hands in his pocket. Kakashi made a go-ahead gesture after a long, silent moment. The kids cast him looks under their lashes and then looked at one another in silent communication before entering. Kakashi stayed, leaning against the front gate, and listened as they wound their way through the house, through the traditional rooms, and up the narrow stairs. He could hear it when they stomped through the inner courtyard and then leapt up to the roof. He couldn't help the fond smile as they all yelped, suddenly realizing the ninja house was defended against sticking to the roof. The sound of their fall into the pond was hilarious. "It's a ninja house!" Kakashi yelled over their splatters. "The roof and walls and fence are all made to make sure no one can use chakra on them." "Now you tell us!" Naruto howled. They joined him a few minutes later, after they had boosted themselves on the roof without the use of chakra to peer at the tiles and the fence surrounding the property. He decided to not let them know yet that there were seals rigged under tiles and stones, and that at any moment he could activate them to send lightning chakra surging through the roof, fence, or gates. That was a well-held Hatake secret. The three trooped back up to him, all dripping. "Naruto," Sakura said, "make at least 20 clones." He did so, filling the small front yard to the brim. "Send some for supplies," she further commanded, handing him a list. Kakashi snagged the clones before they could run off and tucked his wallet in their hands with a stern look. "It's my house, so you can use my money to buy supplies," he said. Naruto shrugged and hurried off, or well, 3 clones did. To be honest, Kakashi wasn't sure which one was the real Naruto. That was the beauty of shadow clones. "Sasuke, do you know how to fix paper doors and clean tatami mats?" Sakura asked Sasuke, relying on his knowledge of more traditional-styled homes. Sasuke nodded and was sent off with 3 clones. "The rest of you," Sakura said, turning to the 15 Narutos. 2 on this courtyard, 5 in the back, 5 for downstairs, and 3 for upstairs." The clones all saluted and fell on the pile of cleaning supplies they had all brought for this mission. "There should be yard work tools in the back," Kakashi called at the outdoor clones. "And don't forget Naruto went off to get plants as well when he gets supplies, so don't feel bad about uprooting too many," Sakura added. They gave a war cry and attacked the house as a mob of cleaners. "And what are you going to do?" Kakashi asked Sakura. "I'm supervisor," she said with an innocent look. "It's a full-time job wrangling Naruto and his clones." He laughed and ruffled her hair. She batted his hand and then gave him a shove out of the gate. "Go and get tea or something, Sensei. Leave this to us." "I can help," Kakashi smiled at her. "No," Sakura said, putting her foot down in a childish sort of huff. "You can see it when we're done, and you have calmed down." He stared at her, but she glared back, arms crossed. So smart, he told her absently, patting her head. Go, Sensei, she said gently, and whatever you hate about this place, we'll fix it. He wondered if she was too optimistic. He would never forget the way his father's blood had pooled on the tatami mats, or the way his hair had looked in the dawn sunlight coming through the windows. But maybe these three could chase the memories away enough he could enter for the first time in 20 years. He went to Getty to calm himself down, and to say thank you, he made sure to order a very nice lunch for the three. It took the kids all day to clean up the old Hatake manor, and the only reason they finished in a day is Naruto made a few more clones. Kakashi had lunch delivered to them as he went to the memorial stone, still a tad unsettled, but he made sure to take them a late dinner himself. When he arrived at the manor, dusk was drawing closer, but enough light still shined to show him the difference. Someone had also cleaned up the lanterns around the property and lit them all, casting soft glowing light. Sakura met him at the gate, obviously having been forewarned by a clone or Sasuke's excellent chakra sensing to his arrival. Naruto and Sasuke joined her a moment later as Kakashi admired the front garden. Come see, she demanded. Kakashi nodded, took a deep breath discreetly, and stepped onto the property. The front yard was back to its former glory, with beautifully trimmed trees and blooming flowers set between rocks. Someone had straightened the granite lantern as well as the bench at the back corner. Naruto had even raked the gravel path nicely, and it was a sort of calming vision. Kakashi toed his sandals off and followed his students into the well-lit house. The doors slid easily in their tracks, and any wear or tear had been touched up with stain. The floor had been polished to an inch of its life, and Kakashi could see they had already replaced a few tatami mats. The kitchen had been scrubbed to gleaming, a small pile of wood stacked to the stove. The table had been washed, and Kakashi found it set up with a small vase of flowers. Every window had been cleaned and wiped, all the paper doors fixed and tidied. Even the ceiling looked to have been dusted and wiped with a clean cloth. Sakura said something about replacing a few roof tiles and fixing a leak or two. Naruto made a face and said the bathroom had been scrubbed. When they led him onto the back porch, looking over the inner courtyard, Kakashi paused. The garden had been cleaned, trimmed, and weeded as well. It looked like they had found some more rocks somewhere and somehow cleaned out the small pond. And if Kakashi wasn't mistaken... Where did you get new koi? He said faintly. Sasuke donated them. Naruto was the one to grin and nod. Kakashi raised a brow at the dark boy who looked away. I never took care of them, the boy murmured. Kakashi looked across the darkening courtyard, lit by granite lanterns tucked inside the garden and lit by paper lanterns that hung from the porch. The electricity will have to be turned on again, Sakura remarked, and maybe checked. It's old and I don't know if it's a fire hazard. The water will need to be turned on as well, but we used water jutsu to fill the pond. You talk as if I'm moving in. Kakashi waved a hand. Aren't you? She asked shrewdly. Nope, Kakashi grinned. Then why make us clean it? Naruto demanded. Because you are moving in. They all froze. What? Naruto squeaked. Your apartment is atrocious. Kakashi smiled at Naruto. And this place is free. You might as well take advantage of that. All you have to pay for here is utilities. Naruto was staring at him. You're all welcome, of course, Kakashi said, giving Sakura and Sasuke a look. I know you all end up hunkered down at Naruto's half the time. They didn't look ashamed of the fact that Alpha got together most nights to practice music, or go over lessons that one or the other had trouble with, or even to share a meal. Kakashi had been invited a few times, but they needed time alone to bond together and be kids, not students. I know Sakura will want to go home to her parents some days, but nothing wrong with having a bed here as well, Kakashi continued. And the Uchiha compound is so far out of the way, it might be more convenient to have a bed here as well. As Sasuke looked down, Kakashi gave Naruto and Sakura meaningful looks. Kakashi was not happy with Sasuke wallowing in grief and ghosts alone in a large empty compound surrounded by memories of blood and death. But Sasuke was too practical to ever rent an apartment when he had the compound. If Naruto and Sakura pushed, though, he would follow. Especially if the place was offered freely. The two gave him curt nods over Sasuke's shoulders. He hadn't outright told them such things, but they had started to pick up on it. "I'll get the utilities hooked up again tomorrow," Kakashi announced, "and you can move in." He didn't phrase it as a question, didn't want to give any of them the choice to refuse. When Naruto tackled him in a hug, Kakashi beamed them.